It is the best time of year, arguably, especially in Texas. Weather getting cooler, and there's at least one baseball game a day that matters. We'll talk about all of it as we get started now on the Rangers DLLS podcast. We had all been looking so forward to Shohei Ohtani in his first playoff experience, and maybe in that first series, it wasn't that great, but he sure has begun to deliver in the ALCS. Hi there. Welcome into the Rangers DLLS podcast. Lots coming up about your favorite team and lots coming up about your favorite sport. It is baseball that we talk here. BC, we see you there, and we appreciate you. Chat along with BC and us, and BC's a big Dodgers fan. John Radigan here, Jeff Wilson there, Rads and J-Dub with the Prophet over here, and Abby joining us from Sweet Home, Alabama. There's Abby Jones. How you doing, Abs?
Hi, guys. I'm on my way back to Dallas today, so I'll be in studio with y'all tomorrow. But it's been nice to be home. There's actually like a little fall breeze here.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying here, too. Of course, I'm in my typical shorts and kind of golf shirt thing, but I felt that breeze walking in today. It's that time of year when it starts to cool off. Makes you think of autumn baseball.
Well, it's going to be a chilly 84 today. Yeah.
For us, yeah.
So I'll start to transition from my summertime uniform of golf shirts and polos into athleisure. So it'll be pullovers and joggers.
Yeah.
Always the hat, though. So always the hat. But
always.
I'm looking forward to it. I got some new stuff to try out here.
You got to get through the rowback gear.
Yeah,
that's
I was
right.
going to say
For
between
sure.
rowback and everything we're getting out of the DLLS vault here, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
We want you to like us and subscribe and chat like BC is doing as we get into the LCS level of these baseball playoffs. And at one point, we are going to go back and look at the end of that last DS, which was the division series clincher on Saturday between the Cleveland Guardians and the Detroit Tigers. And you can all say it to Abs and I. Wah, wah.
I'll handle that segment.
Thank you.
If you guys don't want to talk about it,
we'll be tearing up a little bit. But the NLCS got started last night, and Abs, it was a great start. If you're BC and you're a Dodgers fan, it was a great start.
Yeah, it was. And if you look at what the Mets have done in the past 10 days, I mean, it's been a pretty insane run. They clinched a playoff spot in a makeup doubleheader in Atlanta. Then they won a winner-take-all wild card series. And then they knocked out rivals in the NLDS and caused an upset over the Phillies. So that's a lot to do in 10 days. They got this 3-day rest period. We've talked about rest or rust. Maybe it's, kind of catching up with them a little bit, but they did not show up to Los Angeles last night. No doubt about that.
It's a tough pitching assignment for the Mets. I really, everybody was surprised when they started Senga in the division series, and because he'd been injured and he hadn't pitched but one start this year.
Right.
He had a shoulder issue, I think, before the season.
I think it was. Yep.
Then he comes back and pitches great, and he tears a calf muscle. So then he's out the rest of the year. So he's made one start all year, 6 innings. And so then they throw him into the division series. He pitches okay, but last night he looked like a guy who'd only made one regular season start. His command wasn't there, and so he only lasted 1 out into the second inning, I believe, and by that time it was 3-0, and it was just kind of John, you and I were talking about this. It was like just a systematic dismantling
Yes.
of the Mets by the Dodgers. They got key hits with Max Muncy from Keller getting the thing going in the first. That was a huge hit because Mookie Betts didn't score or try to score on a sacrifice fly or a fly ball by Will Smith that was not a sacrifice fly, but it was kind of surprising. And so then there's 2 outs, and you're thinking, geez, Senga, who's just walked a bunch of guys, is going to get out of it. But Max Muncy comes through with a 2-run single. Freddie Freeman scored on his bad ankle. Looked like a 95-year-old going around the bases, just hobbling and ouch. And they just kept it going. They just kept pouring it on. Ohtani hit the ball hard a couple times, almost knocked down the right field wall once, I thought. And then, God, they keep pitching so well.
That's the thing. So that's definitely the lead of the game and of the last 3 games, 3+ for the Dodgers, who are at 33 innings without allowing a run. It ties the 1966 Baltimore Orioles, who had a young 20-year-old who would go on to become a Hall of Famer. Perhaps you've heard of Jim Palmer, and that great pitching rotation in the late 60s for the Orioles. They went 33 innings without allowing a run in the postseason. It's just an amazing run that this, especially when you consider all of the pitchers that are injured in the Dodgers organization right now. Obviously, you're talking about Clayton Kershaw. You're talking about Tyler Glass now. I mean, you're talking about some great pitchers that aren't available, and they've still gone 33 straight without allowing a run.
Yeah, and the Orioles did that in the '66 World Series against the Dodgers.
Right.
So, that was Sandy Koufax's last season. But anyway, nice little full circle. I don't know what it is.
Tidbit, yeah.
But Flaherty, he was going to be coming up through the Cardinals system. He was going to be the next great Cardinals homegrown pitching talent, and he had a couple nice seasons. Last year, he really struggled. Although he pitched he didn't pitch well. He pitched 6 scoreless innings against the Rangers in a 1-0 game. He was walking guys all over the place, and when the trade deadline arrived, it was clear that the Cardinals were going to trade him and Montgomery, and the Rangers, had a choice, Flaherty or Montgomery, and just seeing the way Flaherty had been pitching, and maybe a little inside information from the old Cardinals pitching coach, Mike Maddox, they went with Montgomery. It worked out very well. Flaherty, I think, ended up going to the Orioles, if I'm not mistaken.
He did. That's right.
Then he started this year with the Tigers.
Yep.
Then they traded him at the deadline, and he was really one of the Dodgers' best pitchers down the stretch. And then what he did last night, 7 scoreless. God, I think I saw a stat. It was the first time a Dodgers pitcher, a starter, had seen the 6th inning since like 2021 in a playoff
postseason game. Really?
Kershaw in 2022.
Anyway, he ends up going 7 scoreless, obviously. The team he grew up watching, Burbank is where he's from. That's 10 miles up the road from Dodger Stadium. Probably take you an hour and a half to get there. But so a nice story. It's a nice story.
It's a wonderful story, and Abs, you'll love this. He grew up there. He had like little league teammates in the stands, the guys he had grown up with, and you more than anyone appreciate the humanity of these men, right? Because they all were little boys at one point in their lives, and they're just regular guys, as you know so well from your dad. So we saw this from Jack's mom on Twitter yesterday, and I just thought that, they're and here's why you'll really like it, Abs. That year, 1997.
Oh, boy.
I love that. Did you know he was adopted, Rads?
What's that? I did. And that's the thing I love. That's a great point. That's the thing I love as an adoptive parent. I love the fact that is another example of what a gift from God adoption is. I know it is for his parents, and I know it is for me. So, I think that's just beautiful. I love that little picture. I love the heartwarming story of a guy coming home and then getting an opportunity in game 1 of an LCS. That's fantastic.
And he dominated. You know, me and my dad had fun watching this. Like you said, Jack was a part of the Tigers organization this season. So, you know, we were just talking about his year, really, and for him to go out and do what he did. I mean, he held the Mets to hitting, I think, like 103 last night. It was insane. And of course, you know, he had some help. But the thing about the Mets is they've scored majority of their runs this postseason on relievers. I will say the Dodgers bullpen is fantastic. You know, they've got a pretty decent group of guys back there. And so for the Dodgers, if they can lock down the discipline of the bullpen and getting through the last few innings clean, like it's a bullpen game today, and it's going to be very telling of this series. I think the series is honestly kind of going to be a runaway, maybe both Dodgers and the Yankees, which I know we're going to get into. But this bullpen has been really key for the Dodgers if they can keep it consistent and just keep it scoreless. I mean, this game's going to be over before we even know it.
Yeah, there's no doubt, and we'll get to that preview in just a second. One thing to finish up about last night's game, Jeff, the kind of thing we started with was the Shohei Ohtani. He just looked like Shohei Ohtani yesterday, and I'm not sure we really saw him break out in that first playoff series.
You know, his first at-bat of his playoff career, he had a 3-run homer.
Yeah.
Right. And really that was after the Dodgers had a big, or the Padres had a big inning.
Yeah.
So the home run let the Dodgers kind of catch their breath. It really did. You know, you're looking at 3-0 of your first playoff game with all this disappointing playoff history against a hot team with a great bullpen.
Yeah.
Against a guy who, you know, Dylan Cease, a former Cy Young runner-up, and threw a no-hitter earlier in the year.
Yeah.
You know, and to hit that home run, it kind of let the Dodgers kind of exhale a little bit, I think. And then, but yeah, I mean, you know, everybody wants to see this guy do great.
Yeah.
You know, he had a historic, maybe one of the best regular seasons ever, depending on who you ask. And for him to hit those, he hit 2 balls really, really hard.
I thought that first one, the first run, the run he drove in, the RBI single he had, I thought it was going out. I mean, it went off the wall, and like I think it went off the wall, and dang near knocked the wall down.
Yeah. If he'd hit it a little higher, but this guy is who everybody wants to see, and so yeah, it's good. It's good to see him perform. Although you know he was the Dodgers' first out of the game against Senga. So there's something I don't know. Yu Darvish had no problem with him.
That's the thing.
There might be some secrets there.
I swear. I mean, he idolized you, and in both those games, I think he might have had 1 hit and 6 at bats against Darvish in that previous series. He's got a little thing to get over there, but he was 2 for 4 with a walk. And afterwards, you know, we've all said it. We've heard many of the pundits say it, but afterwards, one of his own teammates, Gavin Lux, was saying in the clubhouse after the game, he's the best player on the planet. And it's obviously a certain amount of high praise from any of us. It means even more, I'm sure, coming from one of your teammates.
Oh, well, they get to see him every day.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Abby.
Sorry, Rads, what'd you say? Must have lost
connection. We're just talking about, you know, his peers, Ohtani's peers, saying how great he is.
Gavin Lux said he's the best player on the planet, you know?
Right. No, I mean, it's no doubt there, but I was going to point out something with Dave Roberts, actually. You know, with him to make it to this round, he felt like he was in a little bit of the hot seat just with the past postseason history, you know, not really making it past the NLDS for the last 3 years. So he actually felt a lot of the pressure, and, you know, he slightly felt like his job was maybe at hand if they didn't make it towards the next round, which is kind of absurd because he's, you know, if you look at his numbers, he won in 2020. I mean, he's won like 8 of 9 divisions that he's been in since he's been there. So for him to even feel that pressure is a little bit insane. And I was just going to make that point because, you know, when we circled back Friday, he was second best in Major League as a manager in winner-take-all situations. That is another element there with the Dodgers that we didn't get to speak on. It's
interesting because he was in a similar position in 20. Yeah. And I think that he, you know, he does well. He responds well to that sort of, this might be it for Dave. And again, in 20, they had won, 5 or 6 straight division championships. Yeah. And they'd been in the playoffs every year, but they hadn't won the big one. And I get that. And then they won in 20. So takes a little heat off, but doesn't take long for the heat to get back on.
Yeah, it's not dissimilar from Bobby Cox with the Braves, all those great years. They only won one World Series, but he stayed with the team forever and became a Hall of Fame manager. I mean, he had some success with the Blue Jays too, but anyway, I get Abby's point, but there also wasn't Twitter back then, so I don't know.
Right.
I don't know if it would ever surface as loudly as it does with Dave Roberts.
Yeah, no doubt. But it's a really good point, and it is a bit absurd that a guy with that kind of success should ever have to worry about it. But for now, at least until the end of tonight's game, he doesn't have to hear any of that kind of talk. Now, let's talk about today's game, for that matter. 3 o'clock our time. It's a quick turnaround as they will then take a day off tomorrow and travel cross coast back to New York. But the pitching matchup is very interesting. Abs alluded to it. It is another TBD for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And if you're running TBD out there for the Los Angeles Dodgers, that means, Jeff, it's a bullpen day, and that means that it could be chaos like the Detroit Tigers were doing. And you might have to run through a whole lot of arms, and probably it's a really good thing. They only needed Flaherty and 2 others yesterday. Yeah,
Ryan Brazier is going to start for the Dodgers. He was a big bullpen guy last offseason that a lot of teams, including the Rangers, wanted, but he ended up going with the Dodgers. And then Sean Manaea, a lefty, which could be a little trickier for Ohtani and Freddie Freeman, but we'll have to find that one out here. We can talk about it here in a minute.
Yep, no doubt about it. We've got more coming as we continue to get you set for that series. We've got more coming about the American League Championship Series. We'll take a look back at the ALDS. It's all coming up on the DLLS Rangers podcast. But don't forget about Empire Today, will you please? That's a great place to get your flooring needs taken care of. We've all advocated for Empire Today since we've been here and since we've seen the work they did in our studios. It's fantastic work. The great thing about Empire Today is they've been around forever. Everybody else who's out there is basically trying to copy the quality and the service that Empire Today provides for you. And basically, copycats are flattering, but you can't copy the original. They're the OG Empire Today, and they've sort of grown with the times. You want high-tech purchasing power? You've got it with Empire Today. Just take a picture of the floor you want to have new flooring on. Take it to Empire Today. They can use an app to put in any selection of new floor that you might want. Today, you can get $350 off your new floors, empiretoday.com/DLLS.
John, over the weekend, you had the Red River Shootout down the street.
Yes.
You've covered it. I've covered it. You know that a lot of beer gets swilled.
Yes, it does.
And then afterward, I'm sure Oklahoma fans were grabbing for something a little harder.
Yes.
Hopefully, before they started imbibing, they chose some Z-Biotics.
Would be a smart choice.
Yeah. Their first drink probably should have been this pre-alcohol drink developed by scientists, and it's to help you feel good the next day. I went to Total Wine the other day and bought some bourbon. I drink in moderation. I don't know about these young kids anymore, but anyway, you keep hearing about these pre-alcohol drinks and wonder what it's actually like. Believe the hype. All right, GMO technology will release different products to help address toxic byproducts of modern living in the gut. Go to zbiotics.com/DLLS Rangers to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use DLLS Rangers at checkout.
Fantastic. It would be a good idea. It would have been a great idea for so many of those people, because you mentioned the post-game drowning of the sorrows of the Sooners, but there was probably a little post-game celebrating on the side, a part of the Longhorns too. So
you can only eat so many corn dogs.
That's right.
Up all that alcohol.
They can soak up a lot of it, but that's about it. Yeah. So anyway, we're talking baseball, as we love to do, and we love you to join in too. We thank you for chatting along with us. Remember to like and subscribe us, and watch for our shorts too, reels, I guess we call them.
Well, shorts on the YouTube, reels on the Facebook or the Instagram.
Yeah. So watch for that. We're starting to do more and more of that. Abs is kind of the queen of that, Abs. And Candace came in and got a little reel, I think, from us. Said maybe it was a short. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe it was a short or a reel. Help me out.
Maybe it's a short reel.
They both apply.
Okay.
You can post both, But yes, we do have some new content kind of coming out. So be sure to follow our social media handles.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's fun. And actually, Queen Katya was hitting us up too, and you'll have to find that on social media to see. Jeff and I kind of played off each other, so there you go.
Yeah,
Take that.
You go. Yeah,
take that. You'll see why we're on the same pod. So let's just finish up these thoughts about a preview for Game 2, Abs, with the bullpen day, the TBD, and we know what Sean Manaea can do. We know what he's done, but the Dodgers, obviously they won in dominant fashion. But if the Mets win Game 2 with a starter as opposed to a bullpen day, they've done everything they hoped they could possibly accomplish in Los Angeles for the first 2 games, and that is basically steal home field advantage back.
Yeah, no, a split is going to be so important for this Mets team. And, you're hoping that the Dodgers bullpen game today doesn't work out as well as it did in the NLDS, because that was almost a perfect game in a way. There were 9 scoreless innings and, a lot of 8 pitchers from the bullpen in there. And I do just want to shout out Will Smith for this, because what a difficult task for him. He said, I'm the one kind of calling the pitches, calling the game, but at the end of the day, they have to execute it. I'm really proud of what this team's done and how they've been able to handle just a bullpen situation. Rads, you mentioned you don't love the pitching chaos except when it's the Detroit Tigers, but the Dodgers do have a pretty decent, success rate with this. Like I mentioned, they've won 17 out of 25 bullpen games since 2022. And if the Dodgers can win this game today, the stats say that teams that go up 2-0 have an 84% chance of winning the whole series. So that would kind of be taking the momentum completely off from under the Mets. I will say, it is the Mets ace today on the mound, but he historically does not have a great career against the Dodgers. He is 1-5 with a 7 ERA in 11 appearances, but he's excited for the challenge today. He said, I want to prove that I'm a different pitcher at this point in my career than those before. He's been working with a little bit of a different arm slot since late July, and he's improved his ERA. It was 3.2 to finish out the season, but it's a 2.2 heading into postseason. Lefties historically were getting a lot of success off of him in the regular season. He's working on that a little bit more. He's holding guys a little bit down. So you're seeing Manaea, update some mechanics and work on things in real time too. I'm really excited for today. There's a lot that's going to work in the favor of the Mets with their start and their ace on the mound, but then same way, pitching chaos works with the bullpen and the Dodgers. And this game is really, really important.
No doubt.
Yeah, Manaea, if he is doing better against lefties, that's Ohtani, Freddie Freeman.
Yeah.
I got numbers for you.
Max Muncy, Gavin Lux. So it really kind of helps neutralize those guys. He's always been good against right-handers, kind of a reverse splits guy. So he needs to be big today. He really does. If the Mets are going to win, they need to have Manaea pitch well and get them deeper into the game where they can use their leverage pieces against the unrelenting Dodgers lineup. So it should be a good one.
Against lefties in the regular season, they were hitting 248, and then righties 190. But in his last 11 starts, they're hitting 230. So it is a little bit of an improvement post season and end of the regular season as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something they'll try to continue. He'll try to continue, and the Mets will try to build on. No doubt about that. All right, Abs. Well, I guess we've delayed long enough. We got to go back to Saturday and talk about our beloved Tigers who, that game, it just seemed like it was going to be the game. You've got Tarek Skubal on the mound, and it's low scoring. The Tigers got the first run. I'm up out of my chair cheering because normally 1-0, 1 run's enough, and it looked like Tigers
Cool.
felt that in the dugout too, right? Like it seemed like everybody in the dugout was, we got to run, we're going to win,
Yeah.
and it just it derailed. But man, what a game!
No, it really did. And Lane Thomas was MVP of that series. He had a majority of their offensive damage too. But I don't want to point the blame on any one person, but Riley Green should have made that, initial catch in the outfield. I do think that put, I don't know, a little bumps in the road, if you will. I think it maybe would have been a different ball game had he caught that. But it was funny. I was actually watching the game over with my grandfather and my brother. They were all visiting, and my brother went to go get my grandfather some lunch. And when my brother left, the Tigers scored. So we were like, "Hey, Alex, you can't come back in." We were just trying to stick with the baseball rituals and superstitions, if you will. But yeah, did not work out at all for the Tigers. We kind of discussed it in my house, and my dad did just kind of blatantly say, I think the pitching chaos works for so long, but it's not going to really hold up against the Yankees. I think even the Guardians have a huge uphill battle against the Yankees. So you hate to see the run kind of end where it did, but at the same time, probably, wouldn't have been much better against the Yankees.
No, and that, to me, that becomes predictable, right? Because you need starting pitching in the playoffs. It's one thing to do that every 5 or even every third game, whatever you have to do, but to try and do it back to back to back games and then get your starter back in. And again, obviously, the chaos game wasn't the one that undid them.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, an ace is allowed to have an inning like what Tarek Skubal had.
Yeah, and Skubal's thrown a lot of innings this year. You saw it happen to Cliff Lee in 2010. He was so good for the Rangers, and then Game 1 of the World Series, he doesn't pitch very well. Game 5, the elimination game, he pitches well, but gives up the big home run to Edgar Renteria that basically decided the game. Guys get tired, and I don't want to make any excuses for Skubal. He's so good.
No,
but,
so good.
And also hitters will run into a pitch, miss a spot. It's pretty interesting. Cole Hamels one time, me and T.R. Sullivan we were in Seattle talking to Cole Hamels about, if you throw 100 pitches, how many of them are mistake pitches? Out of your 100 pitches, how many do you think are mistakes?
Let me guess. I'm going to say a good guy like Cole Hamels is going to say 25.
He said 20.
Okay.
Yeah. So and now mistakes don't always get hit.
Right.
Pitchers get away with a lot more than you think they do.
Sure.
And Skubal was just so good. And Abby's dad Todd was right about they weren't gonna give Jose Ramirez anything good to hit in Game 5. They walked him ahead of Thomas, who hit the grand slam, and that was pretty cool. That's such a big wall out there.
Yes.
I mean you got to hit it get it out in the left field. You got to get it out. And the guy who caught the ball, that was a pretty neat story.
Yep. We're going to get to a heartwarming moment of the guy who caught Lane Thomas' grand slam ball. We are also going to preview today's Game 1 of the ALCS, and we're going to continue to answer your questions. I've seen a few of them that came by, and we'll get to those in just a couple of moments. Keep the questions coming and keep the chat going as we continue with the DLLS Rangers podcast.
These tickets as these series and the games, they get really hard to come by. But fortunately, there's the Game Time app.
Yes.
Game Time. If you haven't seen it, download the app, check it out. Game Time will help you get tickets to ball games, concerts, theater shows. We're looking at
any hard to get ticket.
We're looking at theater shows for our trip to New York. It's all in pricing. That's probably my favorite thing about it.
Yeah,
all in pricing. So you see with the total up front. No surprise fees at checkout. You can also take a look at your seat, get a panoramic view from your seat, so you're not behind a post or something.
Sure.
So, and then two other things: lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference, and also Game Time ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Just take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code DLLS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account, redeem code DLLS for 20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game time.
There you go.
There you go. Hey, and don't forget about our merch. I'm going to hurry home today. Jeff, I don't know about you, but I think there may be merch waiting when I get home. You haven't gotten yours yet.
No. And it turns out the delay could be weather related because the factory is in Florida.
Oh.
And Florida, if you aren't aware, has had 2 major hurricanes in the last 3 weeks. So there may be some issues there. That might be what's causing the delay, but also it looks like with Milton, Florida got through it real well. It seems like Governor DeSantis was on the ball for that one, and so hopefully there isn't much of a delay.
And you'll get yours too. And if you haven't, order it. Order it today. Store allcitynetwork.com. We've got great merchandise here at All City. It's DLLS stuff. You can get it for all the other markets too. Go get you some merchandise today. Yeah, it's the way to go. No weather issues here. So far, none in Alabama where Abs is. So she'll be coming back to join us on the set here beginning tomorrow. But one thing, Abs, we kind of teased before the break, I thought was just so heartwarming was even as a Tigers fan, but the Indians, the Guardians fan, I need to just keep saying Cleveland.
Cleveland. It's okay. I've decided that it's okay. We know when we're wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, but we're old.
Yeah.
And we grew up with Cleveland being called the Indians.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and like Major League,
yeah,
a great movie.
So it was even in our sort of our social areas,
right? Exactly.
Life.
So we're
y'all want to know
best.
a really funny story? Just like a quick side note. When I was a kid, me and my brother would try to occupy each other whenever we were wherever Dad played. Like tried to make games out of anything. My brother used to always have the little baseball caps. Do you guys remember?
Oh, sure.
Loved them.
And so when I was like 5, he would scatter them all out and tell me to put them, who's in the AL West or, who's in the National League or stuff like that. So we did like baseball hat trivia my entire life. So it has been
Love that. Love that.
Too.
Cleveland had a great hat in those days.
Yeah.
No matter what their nickname was. But anyway, this fan, he's named Matt Coleman, and he came into the game with his cousin, who is Patrick Stayer, and Matt, who's a high school baseball coach about 90 miles to the west of Cleveland, caught that grand slam ball and then immediately gave it to his cousin. Now take a look, Abs, at this picture. This is just fantastic. The cousin, obviously the one in the wheelchair there, has been diagnosed with leukemia. He's been battling it for a few years. He's going to have to get some more chemotherapy. And Matt said he's the most positive person I've ever met in my life. He's just an inspiration to all of us. There was no doubt in his mind that Matt was going to give that ball to his cousin Patrick. And I love it. And hey, Matt, by the way, leapt for that ball. You could see he had played a little baseball. It was not an easy catch out there.
Yeah, that is a nice story. And best wishes to all of them.
Yes.
A battle of cancer. It's nice that he's able to get out to a ball game, and especially such a big game. I mean, Game 5, elimination game.
He hadn't been, Patrick hadn't been to a game since before COVID for some obvious reasons, because that's how long he's been battling the leukemia.
Jeez. Yeah, so that's fantastic.
Yeah, just a great story. Abs?
I love that.
Yeah.
And you hope that the Guardians were able to see that in the magic world of social media. I'm sure it ran across one of their times. Stuff like that, really helps the team rally. And we talked about, how big it was for Adolis Garcia to see the image of the little girl with the baseball that he signed. And it's really important for these players to remember, the bigger things off the field as well. And then when somebody, is like that and the only thing they want to do is come watch you play a game, I think that you play a little bit harder than you ever would. So, I love that, but prayers go out to them. No doubt about that.
Looks like Ben got his Skyline shirt, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
that's a good sign.
I'm happy about that, Ben. And, Yeah. So and that's one of the ones I've got ordered is the Skyline shirt, Ben. So I'm looking forward to the same thing. Yeah. So keep ordering our merchandise because some of it has been able to make its way out of Florida. Let's preview game one of the ALCS and take a look at the pitching matchup for tonight's game. And, Carlos Rodon is a very interesting case. I want to chat about him against Alex Cobb, who might even be more interesting when given how little he has pitched this season. He might fall into the Senga category just a little bit here. But I like the Rodon story, a guy who in the last series against Kansas City, he was shutting them down early, and he off the mound. He was so fired up, and there were some Royals players on after the Royals came back to win the game in which he pitched, and there were some players on social media going, might have been celebrating a little bit too early. Carlos sort of learned from the mistake, and what he said is that he was watching closely exactly what Garrett Cole did. And he said Garrett Cole was like a robot walking off the mound after the sixth inning, right? And until Garrett felt completely safe that the game was in hand, he didn't show any emotion. Carlos said that's what he's going to attempt to do today.
Yeah, Rodon is a veteran guy. I mean,
he is.
He's been around a long time. Former first-round pick. Dealt with some injuries when he was with the White Sox and went to the Giants. Ended up pitching really well and getting this huge deal from the Yankees. But even though he's a veteran, this is probably one of his first times pitching in the postseason. And hey, it can catch up with the best of them. The emotion of the game, all of that stuff, the adrenaline, and so yeah, it a hard lesson. I mean, fortunately, the Rangers are not the Rangers. For him, the Yankees won the series, but it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, I mean, but stuff he has, some good left-handed hitters for the Indians could be neutralized a little bit. Although I think you want Jose Ramirez batting left-handed. Honestly, I think he's a little bit better right-handed. But nevertheless, I wonder if them seeing Skubal in their last game will give them a little bit of a comfort factor, seeing another lefty who can throw hard with good stuff. So I think that's something to consider. You mentioned the weather. Weather's going to start being a factor
in New York,
especially in this series. New York, it's okay today, but it's going to be in the 40s tonight. Cleveland right now, it's 35 degrees.
Oh, geez.
So, when the series gets back, it looks like it's going to be a little bit warmer, but still, it's hard to hit when it's cold.
Nobody likes
it. And if you have power stuff on your pitching staff, if you can throw Garrett Cole at Progressive Field on a chilly night, Guardians hitters are going to have their hands full, and but vice versa too. If it gets late and Clase comes into the game, that's really gonna leave a mark.
102 on your fingers. That's no fun. Abs, I know you've got some stuff on the pitching tonight.
Yeah, I was talking to my dad about it, and Yankee Stadium. If you're a baseball player and you grew up watching baseball, that's one place that you want to play at in October. I mean, that's such a hostile environment. We've talked about other places, but from what my dad says, it's almost like this doesn't compare. He said the toughest thing to do as, somebody that's on the opposing side is just get through the first few innings because everyone at Yankee Stadium is just on their feet. They're so loud. If you can make it through that first few innings, they're just such an engaged crowd. Alex Cobb did kind of talk about the noise. He hasn't played a ton this year, so it'll be interesting to see. But Carlos, I mean, Jeff said, doesn't have a ton of experience in the postseason. The experience that he does have, it's not too hot. He's 0 for 2 and 11 ERA. So you really expect the Yankees, one of the better guys to have a little bit better of a start. But it's to the point of, act like you've been there before as well. My dad was also saying he looked like a reliever, in the first inning or second, coming out of the game, pumping his fist, and then didn't even make it that far. So you want him, just as a professional to just have a little bit calm, be a little bit more poised and make it through your start, give your team a good position to be in. He was a part of the only game that the Yankees did lose. So that will be interesting today. But Alex Cobb, he's definitely got, his matchup here. He's pitched quite a lot at Yankee Stadium, 48 innings. Let's see, he's 2 for 3 and 8 starts with a 3.5 ERA at Yankee Stadium. So that familiarity will help him. But interesting one again today. Another stat that I found that I thought was pretty interesting was with Rodon. He's a guy that people steal bases on, and that's going to be huge for the Guardians because, you know, the me and my dad were talking about the biggest issue with the Yankees is one, the opponents aren't pitching to Judge at all because he's Aaron Judge, and that's the guy that you want to control and, you know, try to minimize his performance. But then you got Soto and then you got Stanton. So it's not like if you avoid one, you're going to get caught in the loop of the other two that you have to for sure try to knock out. So Judge's numbers aren't really great in the postseason, but it's because, you know, he's the Michael Jordan, the exception, the pitch to everybody but him. But then they've got guys like Soto and Stanton doing what they do, and their numbers prove it. I will say with Guardians, you know, they've got Jose Ramirez, who is their superstar, and that's a guy that, you know, they're going to want to try to get off of. But if the Guardians have Jose Ramirez, Steven Kwan, and then if they're able to make some moves on the base paths, that's going to be huge for them because Carlos Rodon, he's easy to steal on. I mean, the stat that I found here is opponents are 2 for 26 in steal attempts, and Guardians have stolen 91 bases against left-handed pitchers. That's third most in the big league. So if the Guardians play smart, there is a little bit of an advantage they can take today with a starting pitcher on the mound.
You know, the Cobb story, they traded for him while he was injured, right?
I think he was
still – I don't think he had pitched yet this year.
Well, and to Abby's point about him at Yankee Stadium, he came up with the Rays.
Right.
So he has pitched a lot in that when they were division rivals. You know, Cobb he's been around. He's bounced around the last couple of years. He was with the Angels, the Giants. He's dealt with injuries. You know, dealt with injuries this year and blister. You know,
torn fingernail too.
All kinds of stuff. But he is a veteran and he'll feel okay. You know, he won't be intimidated.
Well, he's certainly not worn down. Right, he's fresh.
He's fresh. Yeah, absolutely. Kind of like Garrett Cole, who missed the first 4 months. He's fresh too. That said, Garrett Cole has pitched.
Right.
Alex Cobb has not pitched and is probably on a tight count tonight, which will then theoretically, you know, use a lot of bullpen and maybe put the Guardians in a tough spot for game 2. But it's an interesting matchup. I picked the Guardians. When you were on vacation, I picked the Guardians to
go all the way
to win the AL pennant.
Okay, wow.
You know, I just like their bullpen. If things break the right way, they're going to be tough to beat.
Yep, it's good. There's no doubt about that.
I was 10 degrees off on the
it's
temperature.
45.
Yeah, it's not
35 seemed a little low. Yeah. Especially since a week ago I was in Detroit and it was 80.
Well, but it's like rainy and crappy.
Okay, 45 and rainy is pretty cold.
Yeah.
And Abs, to your point about those fans at Yankee Stadium, so right field is notorious. The fans in right field are the ones, right? I mean, those are the ones that get everybody. And so, I bet you could probably find every fan base and every team with whom those fans have a bad relationship, but they don't like the Guardians. Back in 2022, Miles Straw, who was with them then, called the Yankees fans the worst fans on the planet, right? And they began to, those fans in right field began to pelt the outfielders with bottles.
Proving his point, maybe.
Exactly, proving his point. And then that was back in April of 22. Then in the playoffs in 22 that year, Josh Naylor kind of maybe going back to, recalling that, he hit a home run and he rocked the baby. And, of course, so the Yankees fans will be poised and ready for the Guardians tonight.
They don't forget.
No.
Yeah. No, but also, too, I was going to bring up, how important the bullpen is for this series as well, because you've really got a three-headed monster in Cleveland. And, Cleveland's bullpen was the fourth lowest ERA in the regular season by any team since 1995. But when you've got Cade Smith, Hunter Gaddis and Emmanuel Clase, that's a really tall order. The Yankees do have a few guys that are, pretty good as well. I mean, you're not going to get anybody better than Emmanuel Clase, but I do think I'm excited for the bullpen battle just in the ALCS alone.
Well, and I think the Guardians have the advantage there. There's still some issues with the Yankees bullpen with Clay Holmes, on again, off again in the closer spot. Jeff Weaver, former starter, closed a game for the Yankees in the division round. So they have Tommy Kahnle, who's good, but I think that's where the Guardians have a decided advantage, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you mentioned Class A, Abs. I was listening to the Tigers portion of the broadcast for about a half inning in the car when I was driving between places to continue watching the game the other day. And the Tigers announcers, Dan Dickerson, was saying, the Tigers, it was just after the 5-run explosion, 5-run inning. The Tigers, they know they can get something done against Emmanuel Clase. I mean, and again, they did once in this series, so good for them. And then, boy, Clase came in. He didn't leave any doubt, did he? I mean, he was not going to let the Tigers come back in that game.
Yeah.
It was interesting, though, because, like we talked about, just your emotions and everything. I mean, Clase didn't show any in the series alone. And then, when they're up, I don't know how many runs towards the end of the game, that's when he's, kind of walking off the mound, getting a little fiery. And my dad was like, where was this the whole series? Like, don't do it now that you know that you've got it in the bag. So that was just kind of funny, but no, Clase was not going to let that happen again.
Yeah, no, very interesting. So, all right, we've got to take a moment, and then when we come back, we're going to talk more about this this world of baseball right now. We'll get to the final 4 payrolls and look at a vast difference in those payrolls as we come back. And we'll also talk about how many times teams like this have met against each other in the playoffs. You might be surprised. That's all coming up on the DLLS Rangers podcast. Will you please become a diehard?
Please.
Is it too much to ask? I mean, just join us. Be one of us. Hang out, right? Become a diehard. You get free merch. We've already mentioned the merch. Ben's already got his merch. And so it's coming, and you can get any number of great shirts. You get a free diehard shirt, and I believe that's like the Skyline one. It may be the one that down there in the far left of the screen. That may be the one that we've gotten, Ben got, and I've ordered. But in any event, it's all kinds of DLLS merch. You get to pick the shirt you want, so it's okay. And to become a diehard, it's only $79.99. The shirt's worth $35, so you're basically getting the whole thing for about a $45 investment. You get a lot too. You get to get behind the paywall, and there's an article probably coming out tomorrow.
Tomorrow morning, I'm thinking,
that Jeff's going to put out tomorrow, and you are going to want to read this. It's pretty interesting stuff about what the Rangers are doing this offseason. So you got to be behind the paywall to do that. It's easy to do. Just become a diehard. You'll also get 20% off of all of the merchandise that you do buy, which once you have one shirt, you're going to want a lot more. And you will also get 20% off all of our trips and events. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Events, because we're not just going to do trips. We're going to have stadium takeovers. One of the things we mentioned, watch parties when the teams are on the road. We're going to have a lot of things like that. They'll cost, and you will pay 20% less than everybody else there if you are a diehard. So it seems a little bit like a no-brainer, basically, because every year you resubscribe, you get another shirt. Pretty soon, you're going to be lousy in DLLS shirts, and you're going to be happy about that. You'll be wearing them everywhere.
I'm looking forward to these shirts.
Me too.
I'm really, and the hat. The hat, still haven't tracked down Mark Stein, but I got to get me a hat.
Get the hat, and I'm waiting for long sleeve tees to come out too. Yeah. We'll need those in this weather very soon. Become a diehard. Join us. All right. So and we appreciate everybody joining us in the chat and continue to do that and continue to like and subscribe to us. But one of the things we want to get to now is these payrolls, the final 4 payrolls in this ALCS, NLCS level of this deal. Take a look at the numbers. It probably won't surprise you, but the Mets are number 1 in payroll. The Yankees are number 2. The Dodgers are number 3. The Guardians check in at $109 million. I think that's as low as 23rd in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. And again,
it is.
If the Tigers had won that Game 5, Todd, Abby's dad was just telling us they're at like $95 million total payroll for the year. So they would have maybe been, last or second to the last, right?
Yeah, but and then their playoff roster was like
19 million. Yeah. But that is total payroll for the season that we showed there. But it's fun. I think, Abs, we often see that the teams that outspend everybody aren't necessarily the ones that make it. This year, obviously, that has happened with the top three spenders.
Yeah, I mean, just because you spend the money doesn't mean that the pieces are going to, mesh and work as well as you want them to. And I think everyone knows the ideal matchup that media and MLB as a whole wants to see in the World Series. If I need to say it, it's the Yankees and the Dodgers. I mean, to have Aaron Judge against Shohei Ohtani, I mean, that's prime time baseball. It's actually hilarious because I think my dad noticed the 3 batters away from Shohei Ohtani last night. Kind of thought it was a joke.
That, yeah.
But he was like, "Is this for real?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's what they have to do these days." But no, I mean, I think the money goes into the viewership as well, because this year was the best performance for an entire division series round since 2017. 3.5 million average viewers. That's a 14% increase of last year. So I think we kind of, joked around this is one of the best division series that we've seen in playoffs in quite some time. But I think everyone else kind of thinks so too. And, the ALCS, NLCS is going to get chippy. The World Series, if it is that Yankees-Dodgers matchup, I mean, that's going to be a World Series of a lifetime. I mean, the joke is like, it'll feed families. Like, it really, truly will. That's going to shatter every number and expectation of, World Series coverage.
It will, and it's great to see that. It really is. It's great to see not only fans appreciate baseball as much as they do, but look, let's face it. I mean, there were obviously some quote unquote smaller market teams among those people that were consuming those DLS games. I mean, obviously the Kansas City market is small. The Detroit market is fairly small. There were plenty of teams. I mean, obviously you get the Mets, the Yankees, the Dodgers in there. You're going to have some big markets watching, but it was nationwide.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like David and Goliath a little bit. I think, yes, people do love to see Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, like, of course. But then, hey, I also want to see the guy that I have to Google because I've never heard of him. And he just dominated in the postseason. Like, it is kind of funny on one hand. There was one starting pitcher that we were like, yeah, we didn't really know who he was before he started. And then he went 7 scoreless and we were like, all right, guess he's pretty good. Like, I think it's just the perfect balance of like, the Rockefellers and who you expect to see. But at the same time, it's like everyone loves an underdog. Who the heck are these guys? In the case of like the Tigers and the Guardians, they're also, I don't know if you call it delusional, but the aura that they had, the confidence in themselves, like people love to see that.
Chip on their shoulder.
Yes.
They know who they are.
Yeah.
But if you look at historically the World Series winners since payroll started to take off, it's there aren't many small market teams in there.
That's right. No,
the Rangers last year, this is a pretty big market. They had a huge payroll,
and I think they're 4th in payroll this year. Ben said, which I haven't looked at all the numbers, but yeah.
But okay, so Rangers, Astros, Braves, Dodgers, Nationals, Red Sox, Astros, Asterix, Cubs, and then the Royals in 2015. So really, you got to go back to 2015.
Wow.
Cardinals are probably a small are small market.
Yeah, they are
in 11. Not that Rangers fans need to be reminded about that, but 11 and 6.
Tigers fans don't need to be reminded about that one either. By the way,
but and then 6. The World Series runner-up, the Diamondbacks, Phoenix. They've spent more this year.
Yeah.
I mean, Phoenix is huge. Jesus, we've been there.
Oh my gosh! And it grows every year.
Yeah, I don't want to hear about Arizona being a small market team.
No.
Tampa Bay, in 20, of course. Cleveland in 16. The Royals in 14. So there are some small market teams that pop up, but usually it's the teams that spend.
The big spenders, no doubt about that.
And the Rangers learned that last year. That's why they got to keep spending.
That's right, and hopefully they will. And to the point that Abby made about a lot of people, including Major League Baseball and the networks, really hoping that this is a Dodgers-Yankees series. And I've got to be honest with you, like normally that might turn my stomach just a little bit that it's like these two. But I'll tell you this, Abs. I'll tell you this 100%. I will take Dodgers-Yankees every time over a Subway series. Stop it. I don't want to see the Mets and the Yankees.
I was going to bring that up, Brads. I was going to say, but there is a potential Subway series as well.
I don't want it.
Oh, Brads.
That just drives me crazy. That's only one, part of the country that gets to enjoy the thing. I want to spread it out. We got Dodgers and Yankees fans everywhere. Let's just spread it out. But it could, and I know it could be a Subway series. And somehow, I don't know, it just feels like that would feed to New York's whole superiority complex. Like, we held off and, we had both teams in the World Series this year. What about yous guys? What did yous guys do? I don't need it. I want the Dodgers.
I mean, history, the Yankees and the Dodgers have faced each other the most in the postseason. So 11 times, and actually the Yankees and the Guardians next. I don't know if I'm stealing somebody's thunder because I think we were heading this way, but, 7 times, including this season. So, yeah, I mean, it would be a matchup that you've, quote unquote, seen a lot, but just the fact that it's Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani, I mean, I don't think it gets better than this. And then you talk about that too, and anything with Shohei Ohtani, I mean, you're bringing in the other half of the world that doesn't even have a pulse on baseball, but they're setting their alarms and waking up in the middle of the night to watch these games. I mean, I think it is just exciting that there's, such a big like cultural pull that makes this World Series international at that point. And then it feels like the Olympics a little bit to me, but no, I think I would love to see it.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of Ranger spending, Natalie, our good friend, asked a question a while ago about Nathan Eovaldi.
Yeah.
What are the chances Nathan Eovaldi returns? That will be part of my story tomorrow, my hard-hitting story. I think he does. I mean, the Rangers want to re-sign him. He wants to be back. There's going to be money for it. So I think that Nathan Eovaldi will return. I
do too. And the people I've talked to in the Rangers organization, they want to get it done quickly, right? I don't think they need to know about that piece because it will frame so much of what else they can do. Now, they don't have complete control over getting it done quickly because it depends on how long Nathan Eovaldi wants to entertain offers and that type of thing.
Sure.
But in their world, they would like to get it done quickly because it does have a huge impact on the rest of the offseason.
Yeah, and when they signed him in 22, the agreement was reached, I think, on Christmas Eve.
I think it was.
It wasn't announced until after the holiday, but I believe I recall it was either the 23rd or 24th that they finally said, "All right, let's do this," and then they didn't introduce him until after New Year's, which is fine.
Yeah,
but I just think it gets done, and the Rangers have a history of getting deals done early, before the winter meetings. DeGrom was pre-winter meetings.
Yep.
Yeah, I go back to Joe Nathan.
Yeah.
Kyle Gibson, more recently. They generally will find the Rangers have been very good about finding guys that are kind of mid-tier starting pitchers if they want to go that way. But Baldy's definitely not mid-tier, and they have enough guys like Malley and Gray potentially to, help fill out the rotation. Cody Bradford, but they can still sign Eovaldi and still have some money left. I don't care what their money situation ends up being. They've got the money to do this.
Yeah,
so they need to.
That's right. That's right. Especially with a lot of money coming off the books this year.
Yeah.
They definitely do have the money to do this. So good question, Natalie. We appreciate it. We appreciate all you chatters. And Abs, we'll be glad to have you back in studio tomorrow.
I know. I'm excited. I'm going to be watching the games on my flight.
Okay, very good. Travel safely. We'll see you tomorrow. To all of our chatters, we'll see you tomorrow. And tell people about us. Tell your friends. We'll be having fun here all week long, 1 o'clock every day, talking baseball with you, talking Texas Rangers baseball with you. It's the DLLS Rangers podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.